Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. Okay, so I'm back with my continuing series of directors' first films. At the moment I'm feeling a little bit like Kevin Costner when he announced his American Saga Horizon series, only to find that very few people actually showed up to the cinema. So yeah, I'm not getting lots of views at the moment, but I'm hoping more movie fans will find these videos, and thank you very much to those of you who have been watching and commenting. Some great comments. So as we go through this series, watch the video, but also check the comments because people are adding in movies which I don't have in my collection. So the significant thing here is I'm only showing directors' first movies that I have in my collection. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to chip in with some movies that you may have in your collection. Okay, so we're on to the D's now. Here we go. Director John Dahl started his career directing modern noir films, the first one in 1989 being this one, Kill Me Again, really good one with Val Kilmer and Joanne Whalley Kilmer and Michael Madsen. But he went better with his next one, which was Red Rock West with Nicolas Cage and Dennis Hopper, and then better again with the next one, which was The Last Seduction, starring Linda Fiorentino, a fantastic performance from her in that film. He's also directed Rounders with Matt Damon and John Malkovich, and Joyride with Paul Walker. More recently though, he's moved to TV and he's been involved in some really big TV shows over the last couple of decades, including Homeland, The Americans and Yellowstone. Director Stephen Doldry had a background in theatre in the UK before he turned to directing. His first film as a director was in 2000, and it was this one, Billy Elliot, which gave a start to the career of Jamie Bell. Doldry got an Oscar nomination for his directing on this movie, and he got two other Oscar nominations for directing, one being for The Hours, which starred Nicole Kidman as Virginia Woolf, and the other being for The Reader, which starred Kate Winslet and Ralph Fiennes. Robert Dalver worked behind the scenes for a number of years early in his career, including being second unit photographer on Star Wars. In 1979, he won an Oscar nomination for his editing on the Carol Ballard film The Black Stallion, and I showed that as Carol Ballard's debut feature in my previous video. His first film as a director, though, was actually the sequel for The Black Stallion, and that was this one, The Black Stallion Returns. This is the only theatrical feature that Robert Dalver has directed. As a producer, Philip D'Antoni is responsible for 3 films which feature the greatest car chase sequences of all time, those being Bullet, The French Connection, and the third one, which he actually directed, his sole directing credit, and it's The 7-Ups, starring Roy Scheider. The plotting on this one may be a little bit weak, but the car chase is phenomenal, and I'll just read you what Philip D'Antoni says here about his philosophy around car chases and how they need to integrate with the characters. What he says is the chase must harmonise with the hero. For example, in Bullet, the chase was slick, sleek and sophisticated, much like Steve McQueen. In The French Connection, it was hard-nosed and ferocious, like Gene Hackman's character. For the 7-Ups, the sequence shows Roy's character, Buddy, apparently defeated, but then has him come out on top at the climax of the film. 1994, director Frank Darabont. He directed a theatrical film which has grown over time to become many people's favourite movie of all time, and that is the adaptation of the Stephen King The Shawshank Redemption, this one starring Tim Robbins. In terms of other Stephen King adaptations, Frank Darabont has also directed The Green Mile and The Mist. Actually, I'm just going to show you as well, because The Shawshank Redemption wasn't quite Frank Darabont's starting point. It was this film, Buried Alive in 1990, starring Jennifer Jason Leigh and William Atherton. Fun movie, this one. Generally, I'm not going to talk about made-for-TV movies, but in Frank Darabont's case, I'll just show this one. Director Julie Dash is one for the history books because she became, in 1991, the first African-American woman to have a movie that was given a theatrical release, and that was this one, Daughters of the Dust, a really poetic look at black history and traditions. She's also known for directing a TV movie about Rosa Parks. Next we have Delma Daves. Now, as a screenwriter, he was involved in the classic Love Affair, also An Affair to Remember. But as a director, he started in 1943 with the war movie Destination Tokyo, starring Cary Grant and John Garfield. He went on in his career to do a few classic westerns, which have included Broken Arrow with James Stewart, Jubal with Ernest Borgnine, and one of my favourites, which is 3:10 to Yuma with Glenn Ford and Van Heflin. Fantastic film. He also directed A Summer Place with Dorothy Maguire and Sandra Dee. Garth Davis. He was working on TV projects such as Top of the Lake before he turned to feature film directing, and his first one in 2013 was this really emotional drama Lion, starring Dev Patel and Nicole Kidman and Rooney Mara. Fantastic film, this one. He went on to direct other movies such as Foe, starring Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal, and currently he's on post-production on a TV miniseries adapting John Steinbeck's East of Eden, starring Florence Pugh and Mike Feist. We sadly lost British director Terrence Davis in 2023. His feature film debut after a few short movies was in 1988 with this really terrific film, Distant Voices, Still Lives, regarded as a classic. But yeah, wonderful film. Looking at 1940s, 50s Liverpool, really detailed look at it. Just a fantastic film. Liverpool remained very strong in his life as a director, and other ones include Of Time in the City and The Long Day Closes. Director Robert Day worked in TV for a lot of his later career from the 60s through to the 90s, but his starting point was back in 1956 when he directed this film, The Green Man, from writer and producer team Launder and Gilliat. This one starring Alistair Sim. Robert Day also has directed a couple of Tarzan films which I really like, which include Tarzan the Magnificent and Tarzan's Three Challenges, as well as a film with Peter Sellers, Two-Way Stretch. Jonathan Dayton has been around since the beginning of MTV back in the 80s, working on music videos for many people, including the Beastie Boys, Janet Jackson, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Smashing Pumpkins, R.E.M., etc. But in 2006, he turned to movie directing, and his first movie was this one, a really fun one, Little Miss Sunshine. Great movie, and he's also directed Battle of the Sexes with Emma Stone and Steve Carell. Jan de Bont was definitely an in-demand cinematographer back in the 80s and 90s, working on such films as Die Hard, Black Rain and The Hunt for Red October. But as a director, his first film was in 1994, and it was Speed, starring Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock and Dennis Hopper. He then directed Twister, produced by Steven Spielberg, and then the rather ill-fated Speed 2, and then the remake of The Haunting, not so good. Legendary actor Robert De Niro has maintained a high profile now for over 50 years for his acting performances. Only twice that he's turned to directing so far, and the first time was back in 1993, and it was this one, A Bronx Tale. He also starred in this, playing a bus driver who is trying to prevent his son from going into a life of crime with the mob. Great performance from Chaz Palminteri in this one. And the other film he directed was in 2006, The Good Shepherd, about the early days of the CIA. Actor Danny DeVito started his directing in TV, working on the very show that made him famous, and that was Taxi. But it was 1988 when it became his first theatrical film debut, which was this black comedy, Throw Mama from the Train, starring himself alongside Billy Crystal, and a scene-stealing performance from Anne Ramsey. Danny DeVito also directed up next The War of the Roses, starring Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas. That film has just been remade, starring Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman. James Dearden may be best known for being the Oscar-nominated screenwriter of Fatal Attraction, but he has directed a few movies, including in 1988 his first film, a criminally underseen one, which is this, Pascali's Island, with excellent performances from Ben Kingsley, Helen Mirren and Charles Dance. Cinematography as well by Roger Deakins. Definitely worth checking out, this movie. He's also directed a remake of the noir thriller A Kiss Before Dying, starring Matt Dillon, and also Rogue Trader, about the trader Nick Leeson, played by Ewan McGregor. Donna Dich mainly works as a director in TV, but for her theatrical film debut in 1985, she sold her home to get financing and sought the help of a hypnotist to help her with public speaking. The film was Desert Hearts, about two women falling in love on a trip to Reno. Ronny Del Carman, he certainly had a lot of experience working as a storyboard artist and working in the animation department on various animated movies. Just one director credit to his name, and it's as a co-director, and that's on 2015's Inside Out. Guillermo Del Toro, he won an Oscar for his directing of The Shape of Water in 2017. Up next later this year, he's got his version of Frankenstein coming out, so that should be interesting. But his career started back in 1992, directing this one, Kronos. If you can see the title here, I'm not quite sure if that comes out, but yeah, Kronos. And perhaps still maybe his best films are Pan's Labyrinth and The Devil's Backbone. Tom Day has had a pretty patchy career as a director. His first film in 2000 is probably his best one, to be honest, and it's this one, Shanghai Noon, another movie that's bringing Jackie Chan to more American audiences, starring alongside Owen Wilson. Other films that he directed were the rather poor Showtime, starring Robert De Niro and Eddie Murphy, and Failure to Launch, with Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew McConaughey. As a cinematographer, Ernest Dickerson has worked with Spike Lee on many of his greatest films, including Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X. As a director, Ernest Dickerson has mainly worked in TV over the last 20 years or so, but in 1992 he had his directing feature film debut with this one, Juice. I mentioned earlier that Ronny Del Carman was a co-director on Inside Out. Well, that other co-director was Pete Docter, who's worked on a lot of animation movies, but his first one was this one, Monsters, Inc. Great movie, but he's also directed the classic Up, in more recent years, Soul, which I think is a really wonderful one. In 2000, director Andrew Dominik gave Eric Bana a real breakout role, starring as Mark Chopper Reed in this film, Chopper. Great movie. Andrew Dominik then went on to direct absolutely fantastic The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, and in more recent years, somewhat more controversially, the film Blonde, about the life of Marilyn Monroe, starring Ana de Armas. Director Stanley Donen received an honorary Academy Award in 1998 for his contribution to cinema. Fantastic director, mainly in musicals, particularly early in his career, and his first one being a real classic, co-directing with Gene Kelly, and this was On the Town, wonderful one, but other brilliant musicals that he's directed include Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, The Pajama Game, Royal Wedding, It's Always Fair Weather, and, of course, Singin' in the Rain. A couple of left turns late in his career, though, when he directed such movies as Blame It on Rio and Saturn III. Director Troy Duffy is a director with a very singular purpose. So his first film in 1999 was The Boondock Saints, a crime drama set in Boston. And then the only other film that he's directed since then has been the sequel to The Boondock Saints in 2009. And currently it seems he's in pre-production for The Boondock Saints 3. Director Dennis Dugan has been closely associated with Adam Sandler, having directed him a few times on films such as Happy Gilmore and Grown Ups 2. And for his troubles, he's been awarded 4 times with nominations for being Worst Director at the Razzies. But his film directing career started in 1992 with this critically mauled film as well, which was Problem Child. George Dunning has mainly worked on short films, but he also has had some uncredited work as an animator on a couple of Inspector Clouseau movies, including Inspector Clouseau and A Shot in the Dark. But as a director, his only theatrical credit is from 1968, and it's working with the Beatles on Yellow Submarine. Okay, over to you now. Think about your own collection. Do you have any movies with directors, starting with D, first-time movies? Put them in the comments. Let me know what you've got. Also, let me know your thoughts and opinions on any of the movies that I've just mentioned. Please do join me again for the continuation of this series as we go through directors' first films. Thanks very much for watching. All the best to you. Bye-bye.